The Journey Home Executive Directive comes as the mayor expands the Journey Home program aimed at helping the homeless go home. San Francisco Mayor London Breed today issued the Journey Home Executive Order aimed at prioritizing relocation services which have been in place for nearly 20 years for the city's homeless population. The order directs city staff and first responders to offer access to the city's relocation assistance programs before offering any other city services or shelter. The mayor's office says a recent count found that 40% of the city's unhoused population came to San Francisco from another county and in some cases from other states. The mayor says the city leads with compassion first.
We have a team of people that are out there every day helping to provide services and resources to people in need.
The move comes as the city steps up its sweep of homeless encampments that began this week. The city's Department of Emergency Management says so far they haven't seen a dramatic increase in the number of people accepting shelter beds, but the city says many of those being contacted have been resistant to offers of shelter in the past.
Our hands are a little less tied because of the recent judgment from the Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit. Just allows us to do our job.
Those seeing their encampments cleared say this all feels like a hassle. Miguel, who didn't want to use his last name, says he already has a place to stay at a nearby navigation center. So the mayor's plans, he says, will be ineffective.
No, that's not smart because a lot of us are already in shelter. We have a tent outside because we try to create our own little bit of privacy. Like as a full-grown adult, it's hard to live in a room full of all these other strangers.
Advocates showed up in San Francisco's City Hall, speaking out against the new measures aimed at curbing homelessness. They say the city has adequate resources to house those who need it, but lacks the will to create more affordable housing options.
That's the reality. They don't have enough housing in San Francisco. Why? Because you have empty flats, because you have speculators who are making money.
All these latest measures in the city have come within a week of the governor ordering state agencies to clear encampments and urging cities to do the same.
And my name is Steve Zeltzer, and I'm with the United Front Committee for Labor Party. We're here in San Francisco to condemn the arrest of homeless people here in San Francisco. We feel that this is an attack on democratic rights, and we are absolutely outraged that Mayor London Breed and Gavin Newsom are joining with this fascistic Supreme Court to say that you can arrest people for being homeless or having health care problems. We're saying that this is a danger of fascism in this country. Fascism is an attack on the democratic rights of the working class. You look here in San Francisco, there's 16,000 empty flats in San Francisco, yet people are homeless. You have over 80 billionaires in San Francisco, yet they don't have money for health care. They're planning to shut schools, and they're planning to attack working people here in San Francisco. We believe that we should turn these 16,000 flats over to the homeless. We believe that there should be public health instead of privatized health care, where people work for nonprofits who do the same work as public workers but are paid 30 to 40% less. This issue in San Francisco is an example of the crisis of capitalism. Capitalism can't solve the problems of working people, so what do? They blame the homeless and they blame the people that have health problems for the crisis. No! The reason that people have health problems is because they can't get health care. They don't have housing. That's why people are homeless in San Francisco. The reason that people don't have health care is because you have private corporations that run health care for profit. We need health care for people, not for profit. Today in San Francisco, this Democratic Mayor London Breed talks about the problems, but she doesn't talk about corruption in San Francisco. One of the real issues in San Francisco is massive corruption by privatization and outsourcing of nonprofits. London Breed is not talking about that. London Breed is not talking because she's part of the corruption in San Francisco. London Breed is part of the corruption in San Francisco. She's paid off by these billionaires. This is the reason Michael Bloomberg gave her $200,000 to run for president. Why would that be? Why would a billionaire give $200,000 to London Breed? Because she represents the billionaires. Now I want to talk a bit about the social crisis in San Francisco, because London Breed and the Democratic Party have been gentrifying San Francisco. They've allowing the tech companies to push people out. They built these giant buildings here that are half empty right now. Why? because they're controlled by the billionaires. They're not for working people. They're not for poor people. And they have a racist policy. Who does this affect? It affects poor people, black people, brown people. When you look at San Francisco and the empty streets, the working people have been pushed out of San Francisco. They can't afford to live here. That's really what's going on. So we're here today to demand an end to this racist, reactionary, repressive sweeps of the people, poor people, black people, homeless people in San Francisco. It is an outrage that the Supreme Court has said you can arrest a person for being homeless. They will be using that against unions. They will be using that against all kinds of groups, this law. Let's be clear. Project 2025 is to get rid of our democratic rights. Project 2025 is for a dictatorship, for a fascist dictatorship. And these politicians, Gavin Newsom and London Breed, support that. They support this reactionary Supreme Court. They say that they're different from Trump. Hell no. Why would they be lining themselves up with this racist reactionary Supreme Court? We have real issues with the Democrats here in San Francisco. The Democrats are in charge of San Francisco, yet apparently they agree with the Supreme Court which was put in by the billionaires. That's who represents this. That's who represents them. They represent the billionaires. And we say that enough is enough. We need to arrest the billionaires in San Francisco who are looting. You've got Sam Altman as a good example. Sam Altman in Russian Hill in San Francisco is actually stealing voices and audio. They're looters. They're stealing and they're using it to make profits. Are they giving it to the artists? Are they giving it to the creators? Hell no. They're using it to make profits for their corporation. AI and the people that are funding AI are interested in getting rid of workers. 350 million workers are going to have their jobs eliminated with AI. What's going on with autonomous vehicles in San Francisco? They complain about the homeless, but many of the homeless are workers who've been kicked out of their jobs. These autonomous vehicles by Google and other companies are to get rid of workers. London Breed supports AI. She supports these tech billionaires. She doesn't represent the working class and poor people. She represents the billionaires. And there's no protest by the Democrats in San Francisco. Where are the Board of Supervisors? They should be out here, but they're not. Why aren't the Board of Supervisors protesting these draconian measures to arrest homeless people, to arrest people with health problems? We need massive health care in San Francisco for the homeless and people. When you're pushed out of your home, what does that do to people? When you don't have a home, what does that do to the people? It means you get mental problems. You have problems, health problems. That's what homelessness means. And yet they're being blamed by this mayor. Mayor London Breed and Gavin Newsom, and what they're doing in San Francisco is an outrage. They're blaming the poor, they're blaming the homeless, and they have billions of dollars for war around the world, including in Palestine, where they're committing genocide, but they don't have money to take care of people here. They're cutting the budget in San Francisco. They're going to be closing schools in San Francisco. They have money for war, unlimited money for war. And London Breed and Gavin Newsom support this genocide. They support more billions for war. Why is it that there's an unlimited budget for war in the United States when people are homeless in San Francisco, when people don't have health care? We have to ask those questions. Who do they represent? Who do they represent? They represent the billionaires who make money from war. They represent the billionaires who are gentrifying San Francisco, who are causing homelessness. These massive buildings here of the tech companies were supposed to bring wealth to San Francisco. All they've done is gentrify the city. All they've done is kick people out of their homes. When you're here at night, the city is empty because working class people can't afford to live in San Francisco. They have to commute 2 or 3 hours. They're also attacking workers with nonprofits. They're using the nonprofits to undercut public workers. We're saying we've got to eliminate nonprofits and we have to defend the working people of San Francisco, the homeless, and we protest and condemn the arrest of homeless people and people with health problems. That is an outrage. Our next speaker is going to be Monique, who is a worker, nonprofit worker, who's been fighting against these attacks. Welcome, Monique.
We're out here to charge the billionaires with the crime of capitalism, with the crimes of exploitation and committing genocide. That includes Newsom, Breed, Biden, all those bureaucrats that are stealing our power and using our tax money to commit genocide when we have people right here dying on the streets. We have people with no health care. We have people with no homes. And we have one of the highest percentages of nonprofits here in the Bay Area. Hundreds and thousands of nonprofits supposedly dedicated to things like supportive housing and shelter and caring for individuals who are very marginalized and vulnerable. But we still have homelessness. How does that make any sense? It doesn't, because those nonprofits are corrupt and they don't serve the people. They repress us. They tell us to stay in our lane. They steal wages from workers and make nonprofit workers work at way less of a pay rate than public workers, which then brings down the pay rate of public workers. That's what unions in San Francisco are trying to fight for, is wages and benefits and to maintain public contracts. But the city and the nonprofits are getting together so that they can keep wages low and keep benefits low and keep people homeless and keep this whole cycle of poverty going so that they can arrest people and build more and more of a population that's incarcerated. That's the plan here in San Francisco, and that's the experiment that's going on in California and has been going on for a long time, really. It's not that new, except now it's a Supreme Court decision that homeless people can be arrested. And what's happening in Palestine with hundreds and thousands of families being murdered and children and parents being murdered every day. The situation isn't very much different here for people who are homeless being taken to jail and incarcerated because they don't have a house. Well, who has all the houses? The billionaires. There's enough housing here in California for every homeless person to have 11 homes. But they say the shelters are full. They say housing is full. That's a lie. There's plenty of homes for everybody. And we need to start realizing that socialism is the only solution that is going to free us from the tyranny of capitalism. Because as long as profits are put over people, we will never have health care. We will never have real housing or quality education or real, safe, good-paying jobs for everyone. We'll only have billionaires making money off of us. Thank you. Monique, M-O-N-I-Q-U-E, Flamberes, F like Frank, L-A-M like Mary, B like boy, U-R-E-S. I'm with the Revolutionary Workers Front, and I'm also a former nonprofit worker at TNDC.
As I said earlier, we're here to condemn this attack on homeless people, on people who have health problems in San Francisco. They're using the police to arrest them, and they're actually supporting this reactionary fascist Supreme Court decision, which is that people can be arrested if they're homeless, if they're poor, and people can be arrested if they have health problems. This is a reactionary fascistic decision of the Supreme Court. And why is it that these so-called Democrats, and they are Democrats, London Breed and Gavin Newsom, are supporting this? Who do London Breed and Gavin Newsom represent? Well, actually, we know who they represent, because Michael Bloomberg, another billionaire, gave $200,000 to London Breed. She represents the billionaires in San Francisco and the gentrification, as I was saying earlier, in San Francisco, where people are pushed out of their homes. The homeless are a result of Gavin Newsom and London Breed. And Wiener, Scott Wiener. That's why they're homeless in San Francisco. There's lots of housing in San Francisco. There's 16,000 empty flats in San Francisco. Put the homeless in the empty flats in San Francisco. We also are concerned about fascism. Project 2025 is a project for fascism in this country. And the Democratic Party, Gavin Newsom, London Breed, are part of that. When they support the Supreme Court, which has ruled that you can arrest people for being homeless and health problems, they're supporting a fascist his plan. This decision by the Supreme Court is not just aimed at homeless people. It's not just aimed at people who have health problems. It's aimed at workers. Trade unions can be arrested. People who are fighting for civil rights can be arrested. Organizers who are protesting this condition can be arrested. So this danger of fascism is growing, and we need to build a united front of working class people. The unions in San Francisco should be opposing the attack on the homeless, because these same laws can be used against them when they strike. They can say that they're homeless and they have to be arrested. We're saying that the repression, the growing repression in this country is a real threat to democratic rights. And what's happening in San Francisco is a threat to all working people. Our next speaker, Christina, maybe you can speak. Christina Gutierrez has been fighting for rights, for workers' rights, community rights, and rights of working people, poor people, and nonprofits. Welcome, Christina Gutierrez.
Brothers and sisters, and I hope the press will identify with us. We are living to very dark times. We have $350 billion being given to continue the genocide in Palestine. 20,000 babies have been murdered, and we don't have money to give a house to the homeless. You question me why I talk about Palestine? Because that money is my tax money, and I want it to be used for the people here in this nation to solve the problem that we have, not to murder children all over the world, not just in Palestine, but we know that this country interferes everywhere else in Latin America. That's why I'm here, running from what the United States did in my land, in my country, Colombia, forcing us to leave our countries because they steal all our wealth. And then we had to come here to get it, and then they punish us and they consider us second-class citizens. We need to really understand, brothers and sisters, that this is deeper than just now. This law is so horrific. Think that you are punishing the poor, the weak, and the vulnerable for being that. That we want to murder those people. A lot of the homeless have been murdered. I work against police brutality. I was a member of the Frisco 5. We went on a hunger strike for 18 days. 18 days demanding an end to police brutality. So we cannot continue to be jumping from one struggle to the other, but we need to unite and start saying that the system is the problem. That Kamala Harris is not going to solve anything. Come on. She received $5 million plus from the Zionists of her campaign. She is married to a Zionist. They will continue the genocide. None of these political parties are going to solve the problem because they're not thinking about the working people. They're thinking about the millionaires, the rich, the corporations that benefit from this war. If not, you, the press, should investigate that. Who benefits from the war? Who benefits from the war? Who gets the money from the war? Who sells the guns? Who gives the bombs to that crazy Nazi that came and spoke here? And the Congress of this nation, for 58 times, gave a standing ovation to the Nazis. To the Nazis. To the Nazis. 58 times a standing ovation, brothers and sisters. So, but I am very hopeful, because when they pass these laws, it's because we are protesting. When they pass these laws, it's because we are organizing. When they pass these laws, it's because they fear the power of the people. So it is up to us. I'm not afraid. I do not fear what's going on. I understand that, and I'm calling on everybody, including the press, to be responsible. To be responsible and do what you must do, brothers and sisters. It is very important that we stop this madness before we become a Palestine here, where we murder the poor, the weak, and the vulnerable right here in this nation, because that's what we're moving towards. So this is our time to organize, brothers and sisters, and we must be moved by love, a love for justice, a love for equality, a love for peace, a love for all those things that they have denied us. Because by the human rights that we are supposed to have, housing, education, health care, and jobs, those are human rights They are denied to all of us. To all of us. Some of us may get some benefit. You may have a job at the press. I don't know for how long, if you ever said anything that they don't like. So I'm calling on all of you to realize that this is a great opportunity for all of us, that we must organize against this system, that we must build something new, something that the workers benefit from what we build. Everything that you see around here, we the workers have built it, and we have no right to it. So I call on all of you, we need to build a revolutionary working class party here, a labor party that will talk about the needs of the workers in this nation and the workers around the world, and end up war and genocide. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Charles Minster, a retired laborer who's been fighting in the unions and for democracy. Welcome, Charles.
First off, I want to say, free the homeless. There's no jobs and no affordable housing. No jobs, no affordable housing in this city.
Put the mic closer to your mouth.
And now they're going out and arresting the people victimized by this fact. So you call that democracy? It is for the rich. This billionaire who's running for mayor right now, the reason he's running for mayor, this Laurie, the scion of the Levi's fortune, is that the billionaires are tired of having to call Breed on the phone every day and give them the walking orders. They don't want to do that. It's a waste of money.
You've got to speak directly in like that. Close.
They want to use their phones. It's a waste of money, and they want somebody that will immediately give them a tax relief. No problems when you got a billionaire and some of his sycophants who are running for supervisor in this city and getting the largesse, riding his coattails. Jobs. Where are the jobs to help you house in this city? As Steve has said earlier, the working class, unionized working class, can't afford to live in this city. Unless they were lucky enough to be old enough as me to have bought a house here decades ago, they're living somewhere outside this city and have to travel to work by BART or car or bus. That's the reality. And no longer can we live in a society when you have the wars that are going on in Ukraine, fostered by the United States, Israel, and anywhere else the United States sees capitalist interests threatened. The only reason for the U.S. military is to protect capitalist interests. That's their job. This is an imperialist nation that steals from the poor and feeds the rich. And we are the ones who are paying for that. Senior housing, where is that at in this city? They built one senior housing in the last 10 years. No, there's money for war, though. Always money for war. Got to raise that budget for the defense industry. When's the last time we were attacked here? 9/11? All right. So we need a working class party that will have on its banner workers to power. Seize the assets of the capitalists. Run society in a cooperative, socialist, workers-led basis. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Ricardo Ortiz. He's a labor researcher on Puerto Rico and internationalism. Welcome, Ricardo, and a member of the United Front Committee for the Labor Party.
It is very curious that right now we have to defend our public spaces because it is a crime that if you don't have a job and you have no protections and have nowhere to go, you cannot even sit or sleep in a public place which workers pay taxes for, because the Supreme Court of this country, which is backed and run by billionaires, say, no, you cannot do. This is a form of fascism. Limiting the space of congregation, prohibiting the space for people to hang out and conquer. So, in the meantime, they send all these billions of dollars to the Ukraine to make sure that American and European corporations are able to invest over there, and the corporate military establishment keeps running. because from all those weapons that go to Ukraine, there are billionaires in this country that benefit from all that weaponry that the Israeli military uses to murder in genocide the Palestinian people. Some billionaires and plutocrats of this country enrich themselves. And what an irony. A few years ago, this corporate press that we have right in front of us, that is in bed with the two ruling parties, were crying about that the members of the military that were coming out of the Gulf and of the Afghani wars of imperialism were committing suicide. Oh, they are homeless. But now they fail to realize that a lot of those homeless are former service members. They are veterans. They are guys that were used as cannon fodder in the imperialist wars, while these thieves right here in City Hall, in the Capitol in Sacramento, in the Capitol in Washington, and in the White House, and the judicial phony system of this country enrich themselves each day by the billions. So, how can we end this problem? Definitely, like previous compañeros and comrades have mentioned, we need to get rid of this criminal system. We need to get rid of capitalism. That's the only way that, we will be able to live decent lives and lives in equality. If we replace this system with worker states all over the world, with a program to harmonize and to fraternize with our brothers and sisters elsewhere in the world. It's no hope supporting these puppets, these buffoons that are in the pockets of the plutocrats of this country. The very Democratic Party candidate, she was the top cop in this city. And what did she do? She went after the poor. She liked, humble people. That's what she did. And then when she became the Attorney General of this state, what did she do? She went in front of the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to establish that it was constitutional for the state of California to execute people. Yes, that's Kamala Harris. And she supports every military adventure that this crazy empire does abroad. So, I challenge these representatives of the capitalist press. Why don't you ask them these questions? My friend here was interrupted by that journalist over there asking, do you got the numbers? Do you got the numbers? Well, you are supposedly the press. You're supposed to do objective journalism, which is a lie. Why don't you make the investigations? You know damn well that you have more reach than us in public opinion. But you don't ask them because you are a pile of hypocrites. You are in the service and in the pockets of these government officials. The press in this country is not independent. It's capitalist. It's corporate. And all these are none more than representatives of the capitalist class. Thank you very much, comrades, and let's keep the fight going on.
Thank you, Ricardo. Yeah, I guess, the arrest of the homeless, the arrest of people that have health problems under this new ruling of the Supreme Court is a crime. That's the real crime. The real criminals who run San Francisco, the billionaires, they get the police protection. They get protected. But what is the United States about? What is the American Constitution about? It's protecting property. That's what they're concerned about. Keeping their property. So when they steal, when they have wage theft, when they steal from workers, they don't go to jail. When Elon Musk lays off, we're trying to form a union, 700 workers at Fremont and Tesla, is he arrested? Is he charged? When he commits workers' comp fraud, by covering up injuries of workers at Tesla. Is he arrested and charged with workers' comp fraud, which is a crime? Hell no. He's above the law. When he operated his factory during COVID and violated the Alameda County Department of Health stay-in-place order, did he get arrested? Hell no. In fact, he told Gavin Newsom, come and arrest me. Yes. Come and arrest me. And Gavin Newsom said, no, you can violate the law. Yes. You can violate the law because you're above the law. The billionaires in this country are above the law. That's the reality. They're above the law. That's why people are fed up in this country. Working people are fed up. There's one law for the billionaires, and there's another law for working people in San Francisco. That's why we need a labor party. We need a working class party so working people have a political alternative. There is no real working class alternative in this country. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That's what you've got, the Democrats and Republicans. And our next speaker is from Freedom Socialist Party. Is it? Bob Price. Welcome, Bob Price, who's a retired professor and retired member of AFT 2121.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, everyone, for being out here today to protest this obnoxious removal of homeless people, this arrest of homeless people, blaming the problems of a system on people who either can't get health care that they need, can't get homes, can't afford homes. All of those things have been taken away so that, as previous speakers have pointed out, when the banks fail, the banks can be bailed out. When GM or Ford fails, that they can get money. They can get money from our tax dollars. But when the people who really need the help are out on the street needing both drug rehabilitation help, just help finding a place to live that's safe, there's no money for that. There are how many buildings in the city that have open spaces in them that no one's occupying? It's time right now, if the mayor and people were really serious in this government, were serious about helping the problem of homelessness instead of arresting people who are homeless, they would be converting all of these open spaces into places that people could live and live with dignity. As I agree so much with what previous speakers have said, the answer is not in London Breed, Gavin Newsom, or Kamala Harris. They are all part of the same party that has betrayed working people again and again throughout history. I mean, you have Kamala Harris, who went to Honduras and told people, don't come to the United States, don't come to the border, we don't want you. That's their immigration policy. It's against immigrants, they're against the homeless, they're against anyone who needs help and who has worked, from families who have worked to contribute to the system, to build the system, but when it's time for people in need, they don't have anything. We do need a labor party that represents the needs of working people, not the two parties of capitalism, the Democrats and the Republicans. They will never help us. And it's really time for us to get such a party and vote. Don't vote for the Democrats. Don't vote for the Republicans. You need to just find a candidate that's independent to vote for, or just null your ballot. So anyway, thank you for being here. Let's keep fighting together to work for the people who need, basically the people who need to get the help that's needed, and for all the working class who can barely, working class people, a lot of them are in their houses, but there are working class people in the streets too. So all of us together need to work to take this to a better system than the one we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And yesterday there was a rally by UC workers all over California. It was a rally in San Francisco of UC AFSCME workers, $32.99. What were they demanding? They can't afford to live. They can't afford to get housing. These are working people who have public jobs. Why is that? The University of California regents are billionaires or millionaires. They represent Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is on the board of regents, but there's no money for these people to get enough money so they can live in housing? Why is that? Because the UC regents and the University of California is the largest owner of apartments in California. Isn't that interesting? Their members, their workers can't get housing, but they have the largest number of apartments in San Francisco. How could that be? Why? Because they're profiting from homeless. They're keeping these apartments for the rich, for the wealthy. We're saying that these apartments they own should be turned over to the public. They should be public housing. Their own staff, their own workers can't afford to live in San Francisco, in San Diego, in Santa Barbara. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a corrupt system in which Gavin Newsom and the capitalists are destroying the lives of working people. Even people who work full-time can't afford housing. Our next speaker is Nancy Cotto with Radical Women. She's a retired member of AFSCME 3299. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you very much, everybody. Also, just a shout out to folks who are here. Also, a shout out to our working press. We do distinguish between, folks who do the work and the conglomerates and bigwigs who own the press. Two different things, in my opinion. We have an office just up the street there on Polk and Willow. We have seen over the years the growing number of houseless people living in the area, forced to live on the streets. This is not a new phenomenon. What is new is the Supreme Court coming down explicitly, basically criminalizing, the highest court of the land, criminalizing people for being houseless. That is the crime, not that people are houseless. I worked at UC Law, formerly UC Hastings College of the Law, again, right down the street. So I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. I live in San Francisco. My rent has gone up considerably in the 4 years that I moved to my current place, and I have a pension. That makes me better off than most people. The point is, any one of us could be the person on the street. Any one of us are literally a paycheck away from being there. If not, so we have to understand it's not an us and them, it is a we. Because it is the we that will make the change that is necessary. It is the we that says we will no longer tolerate the criminalization of homeless people. We will no longer tolerate people becoming homeless because they don't have adequate quality health care. We will not tolerate the fact that people do not have jobs, or the jobs that they do have are so low paid you can't afford to live in San Francisco, let alone anywhere else in the Bay Area. What we're trying to do here is to build a movement to say, let's not allow ourselves to be pitted against each other, to say, oh, it's not us, I don't have to be concerned about that issue. Because the fact of the matter is, it is us. We are, I will say it again, a paycheck away. The other thing I want to say is California is the 5th largest economy in the entire world. Let that sink in. 5th largest economy. California is larger than many and most countries in the world. So why can we not fix this problem? San Francisco ranks very high as a very wealthy city. Again, it's not that we don't have the resources to fix the problem, to create jobs, to create homes, to create a livable wage for folks. We have that. But we don't have the political willpower of our politicians. In fact, they're going in the opposite direction and running and saying, okay, we'll just criminalize everybody and that makes everything, that's going to solve the problem. As we well know, it does not. So I encourage everybody to come out, to continue to support this. Also, if there's, street sweeps happening, please do what you can. Work with other groups so that we can organize together and work to solve this problem collectively. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, if we have sweeps, let's have a sweep of the billionaires in San Francisco. They need to be swept out of San Francisco. So this is the beginning. We're going to have a campaign against this law, against these draconian measures, and we're saying to the working people of San Francisco and this country that this fascistic law needs to be opposed. And we need a workers' party that will oppose it. The Democrats and Republicans are not opposing fascism. and that has to change. We need the workers to support the formation of a workers' party that will challenge this. The main problem are not the homeless. The main problem are not the people that have health problems. The main problem is a system, a capitalist system that keeps empty flats in San Francisco so people don't have a place to live, and says they don't have enough money for health care, they don't have enough money for housing. That is the problem. It's a system problem, and that's why we need system changes. Thank you, brothers and sisters.